It's a strange thing about some of the people in this country. They really enjoy violence. They really enjoy watching people that they perceive as being on a lower station in life having a hard time. I guess somehow it makes them feel superior. I don't know what it is. The ugly Americans. That's what we're going to call them. They like beatings. Oh, they're in favor of beating all kinds of people for all kinds of things, except, of course, the things that they do, and they're kind. They don't want to get beat, but they dream about beating kids. They dream about beating, teenagers, and they dream about beating, those poor, misfortunate souls from a dirt poor country trying desperately to escape. They're very much in favor of hitting people who do things that they don't like. You've heard them a million times. This crowd is convinced that the only problem we really have in this country is that we just don't hit people enough. The only problem we really have in this country is that we just don't inflict enough corporal punishment. Yep, that would clear up everything, according to that crowd. Some of them even called for shooting the immigrants. Right there, on the spot. No trials, no due process, no nothing. Bam, bam, bam! Take that. Shooting people for the hard crime of illegal entry into the glorious United States of America should be a capital offense, according to this crowd. Let me see if I understand this now, because this really raises some very interesting issues. Raises some very, very interesting questions. The ugly American will be the first one to wave his flag. And the ugly American will be the first one to tell you how much he loves this country. How much he is into, things like the Constitution and law and order and everything that we stand for, that this nation is something that they are proud of. Proud of. Okay? Are you with me so far? Oh, don't forget that Egyptian statue. It's a very, very important part of the show. It's a very important part of your life. I'll get to it in a moment. So we have this nation, of course, that was founded by some men who set down some principles on a piece of paper. Well, several pieces of paper, several documents, over the course of quite a number of years, actually. A set of guidelines and statements about what the country should be, about what the people should be in the country, about how men should be treated. And that's, a generic men type of thing. And the ugly Americans, well, they say that they respect and honor those documents. They revere them. One of the documents is something called the Declaration of Independence. It is a document that, in particular, the ugly Americans say that they're familiar with, although actually most of them aren't, because it's a rather flawed document. There's a hell of a lot of good in it. There's an awful lot in it that's frankly quite embarrassing, but that's beside the point. The Declaration of Independence. I'm sure that you've heard of it. I'm sure that, you've seen it somewhere. They had probably talked about it in school. Maybe you heard somebody talking about it at the diner. I don't know. I'm sure you've heard of it. Now, it's been a while since I perused the Declaration of Independence, but if memory serves me, I seem to recall that it starts out with words something to the effect that all men are created equal, and that all men are endowed with certain inalienable rights. And I think it even says something about by their creator. Now, it doesn't say all white middle-class men or all whatever. It says all men are created equal and are endowed with certain inalienable rights. Do you know what the word inalienable means? That's a very strong word. Oh. Well, among those rights are the right to pursue life and liberty and happiness, or something like that. Like I said, they're very strong words. They really seem to be quite clear. They really seem to be words that almost anybody, even an ugly American, should be able to understand. Let's go back and review them. All men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights. Yep, there's no getting around them. They're clear cut. Easy, really easy to understand. Hell, even a neoconservative ugly American should be able to see what they say. Inalienable. That means you can't take them away. Can't be revoked. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. All men. Basic fundamental rights. Right there in black and white on those documents that particular crowd in particular says that they really, really, really respect and love and worship and revere. And I got to thinking about it a little bit more, you know. There's another trait. It's not exclusive amongst this crowd of ugly Americans, but by and large, most of them will tell you that they're great lovers of God, even more so than the flag. God first, flag second. Now, I ain't much of a religious kind of guy. Some people hold that against me. But you know what pisses them off even more? Well, it's the fact that I've read the damn book. Most of them haven't. And I have a really nasty habit of bringing up some of the things that are in that book. Some of the things that the believers say that they believe in, but obviously don't. Now, it's a fact that most of the ugly Americans say that they are big-time believers in God. Okay. And all things that are associated with God. Like the Ten Commandments. Ooh, and the Bible. And the teachings of the Son of God. Presumably among them, things like, the Sermon on the Mount. I don't know if you have a copy of the book handy, but if you do and you open it up, right there on the first page, right there up at the, right there on the first page, kind of up at the top of the page on the left-hand side, the book says that God created the earth. And a few paragraphs later, it says that he also created man, and that he created man in his own image. And if you keep turning the pages, you'll come to a list of rules, reportedly directly from God, dictated to Moses on a stone tablet that somehow he lost. But anyway, this list of rules, reportedly from God, it says among other things, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. And if you keep leafing through the book, you get to the New Testament and the teachings of a man called Jesus. Surely you've heard of him. Almost all of the ugly Americans have heard of him. Well, Jesus is reportedly the very Son of God. And as you leaf through the New Testament, as you go through page after page after page, there's all this talk of love and forgiveness, and compassion, tolerance, sharing, humility, and the like. It's reported in this book that the ugly Americans say that they revere. But he preached against greed. He preached against selfishness. It even goes so far as to say that he told his followers to avoid violence. It has been written, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, but I would say unto thee, turn the other cheek. It's right there in the book. In quotation marks. Or if you have one of the red letter Bibles, that the words of Jesus are in red letters. It has been written, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I would say turn the other cheek. Jesus said stuff like that all the time. It's throughout the entire book. It's kind of funny, the ugly Americans, the ones who are drooling over the beatings, the ones who are calling for giving medals to the cops who do such things, also are very quick to tell you that this is a Christian nation. A Christian nation founded on the principles of the teachings of the man that they call the Son of God. Like I said, I don't have a copy of the book right here in front of me. But I can't really recall any instance where he ever advocated violence. Though the ugly Americans seem to be into violence big time. It's 23 minutes after 7. Don't forget that statue. It's Caller Opinion Day tomorrow. Your chance to tell Larson what an idiot he is if you think it'll do any good. Probably wouldn't. That's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. until noon on 970 WFLA. You know, there was... Don't forget that statue. You've probably figured out already how that all fits in with this, but don't forget that Egyptian statue. You know, there was one common thread that seemed to run through the discussion today. One very, very common thread that justified beating people, that justified shooting them if need be, that justified doing whatever the hell you wanted to do to them, and that was money. The ugly Americans, the ones who were drooling over the beatings, were very concerned with money. The big bitch was that the Mexicans were coming here to take advantage of the riches that we have. Yeah. Coming here to get on welfare. I understand they got $4,000 or $5,000 in cash a month and big mansions and stuff in Hollywood. That's what they're coming here for. Beat them. Beat the SOBs. Now, it seems to me that the Son of God addressed that very issue. It seems to me that the Son of God addressed that one when he taught that one should not store up his treasures here on earth. Remember? In fact, he taught all kinds of things that the ugly Americans who say that they believe in him, who say that they live by his teachings, apparently ignore. But you know what? You don't have to be a so-called believer. I mean, look at me. I'm a heathen, right? You don't have to be a so-called believer to know that it's wrong to beat people. You don't have to be a so-called believer to know that it's wrong. You don't have to be a Christian to know that it's wrong to treat people like animals. I mean, if you want to be a hypocrite, if you want to beat people on the street, if you want to shoot them on the spot for the horrid crime of entering this country illegally, trying to survive, all you have to do is be an ugly American and you'll fit right in. A greedy, selfish, uncaring, ugly American. Now, I'm not in favor of illegal immigration. Do I have to tell you that? I'm not in favor of unchecked immigration either. On the contrary, I'm very much opposed to both. I'll tell you what else I am. I'm very, very skeptical about what I heard today. Skeptical about the real intent of the ugly Americans who just lined up call after call after call. Oh, sure, there were some decent ones in between, but... See, every day scads and scads of white folks enter this country illegally. They come across the Canadian border. They fly into JFK Airport in New York. People from the UK, people from Germany, people from all over Europe, people who look just like you and me. They get off the planes in New York and they disappear into the crowd to become illegal immigrants. And not one of the ugly Americans called for beating them, let alone shooting them on the spot when they're discovered. I suppose that was just an oversight. I suppose that was just a coincidence, but it's something I thought I would bring up. I mean, far be it from me to suggest that there really is an ulterior motive here. Far be it from me to suggest that. Like I said, I just thought I'd bring it up. But then there is that statue. You have figured it out already, haven't you? Oh, darn. I got a break for the news. We'll get to the statue in just a minute. 7:34 the time, about 26 minutes away from the hour of 8 o'clock. I do apologize. I kind of lost my head, got carried away when I suggested that Perhaps this wasn't really an economic issue. Perhaps this wasn't really an immigration issue, that, there might be an What a foolish man I am to have thought such horrible thoughts. Please forgive me. I'll try to keep myself under control for the remainder of the evening. Illegal immigration, it is really a very big problem. There's no two ways about that. Unchecked immigration is anything but desirable in this country or any other country. And it would seem that we have basically three directions to go if we're going to address this problem, or if we're going to deal with it in some fashion. The first direction would be to, do what we're doing, which is, frankly, damn near nothing. Another direction would be to do whatever it takes to civilly patrol and control the borders of this nation. Or the third possibility is the one that seemed to be the most popular this morning: beat them, shoot them, treat them like dogs. Option number one, do nothing, is unacceptable. Option number two is very expensive. That's where the problem seems to lie, isn't it? The ugly American values his money far more than he values human dignity. The ugly American also seems to genuinely enjoy violence. I mean, think about it. He often spends his leisure time doing things like watching a couple of guys trying to kill each other in a boxing ring. Preferably people of color. He will sit for hours on end in front of his little television tube watching about 22 guys trying to dismember each other on the so-called gridiron every Sunday. Ugly American feels, virtually naked unless he's got his gun with him. He's got to have his gun. Not because he fears foreign invaders or anything like that, but because he fears other Americans. Did you ever really think about that? He's arming himself against his friends and neighbors. Ooh. Well, you see, we really should feel sorry for the poor guy, because the ugly American, he lives in constant fear. Constant fear. I mean, he's always looking over his shoulder. He's afraid somebody's going to come and take his daughter. He's afraid somebody's going to come and take his wife. He's afraid somebody's going to come and take his goods. He's afraid somebody's oh, man, he's just petrified. The ugly American should be petrified. He lives in a community that is increasingly dangerous and hostile. A community filled with people who have no respect for him. None! Have no respect for his property, no respect for his institutions. People who have little more than contempt for him. People who actually would do him harm if they got the chance. Now, there isn't any denying that. And you know what? The ugly American doesn't have a clue as to why. He lives in this strange world, this world of us versus them. And he doesn't realize that it's a world that he created. The ugly American is surrounded by enemies. Every place he looks, he's got enemies. Enemies that he, by and large, created himself. Well, let's get real here, okay? We really only have two options. Either we can hope that the ugly American will come around, see the error of his ways, realize what he's done, or, barring that, we can, I guess, just start beating the downtrodden into submission of some kind. They seem to be the only two choices we have here. I mean, think about this. If trying to sneak across the border in the hope of a better life, a decent life, if sneaking across the border in the hope of delivering your child in a country supposedly blessed by God Almighty himself is a beatable offense, just imagine what other things might be worthy of being beat like a dog in the streets for, huh? Ooh, kind of exciting, isn't it? I'll bet some of you are getting goosebumps thinking about that. The guy on the radio this morning said that he was in favor of shooting them because he was going to be writing a big check in 2 weeks. Yeah, shoot him, because I got to write a big check in 2 weeks for my taxes. Never mind that perhaps half a cent or less on the dollar of his tax money will go to providing for illegal immigrants. Never mind that. He wants them shot. So do a lot of his friends. And only a handful of people disagreed. Okay. Desperate human beings. Desperate human beings who live in poverty like you and I can't imagine. Shot on the spot. No due process, no nothing. Because it might cost a half a cent in tax money to provide for them. God darn it, work hard for my money. Shoot the SOBs. Okay. Well, I pay taxes, too. And I don't like paying taxes. You think I'm crazy? Somehow there's this bizarre concept among the ugly Americans that liberals like paying taxes. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I don't like illegal immigrants because they do mess things up. But I can't help but wonder what goes through the minds of people who don't have it made in the shade in this country, who don't have it made in the shade in any other country, when they listen to this kind of crap. And when they listen to people who, but for the grace of God, if you'll pardon that expression, lucked out, were born at the right place, born at the right time, were born with just the right gifts, showed up at just the right place on the right day, and live very, very well. I wonder what they think when they hear people like that say, I can't afford half a cent. I'd rather shoot the son of a bitch. I'd rather beat him in the streets and give medals to the cops that do it for me because I ain't got the balls to do it myself. I wonder if it has anything to do with why we have millions upon millions upon millions of people in this country who have nothing but contempt for our system. A system increasingly dominated by the ugly American crowd. I wonder, what do you think? Think there's any connection there? But you know what? I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my breath. It's not going to change. It's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And I don't know whether to be mad about that or to sit here and cry. Cry like a fool. As I witness these ugly pigs destroying my country, destroying my nation, destroying my world. Let me tell you a little story. The world. Literally, the globe, the world. All the continents. They're littered. Everywhere you go, with the remnants of once great societies that came before us. Great societies. Some of them very, very much advanced. Some of them far greater than our own. But now they're just ruins. They're gone. They're vanished. All the people. All their knowledge. All their accomplishments. Vanished into thin air. Virtually without a trace, except for stone buildings that somehow managed to make it through the millennia. One of the most marvelous of those societies, one of the most advanced of those societies, fascinates us to this day. It's one that we, basically think that we know a lot about, but actually we don't. The Egyptians. Do you have any idea how long their society flourished? Hell of a lot longer than ours, friend. Hell of a lot longer than any other that I know of. And all that remains today are ruins. Ruins. And a few items that somehow survived. A plate here, some jewelry there, whatever. This once great society, this once rich and powerful nation, far richer than we are, is now a dirt-poor third world country, a backwards nation. I went to the museum last week. What the hell do they call it? Forget. I went in St. Petersburg. They had the Tsars thing, and now they have the Egyptian thing. Yeah, Muffy and I were out last Thursday. Went out and had some lunch, and I said, let's go down and check that out, before it leaves or before the crowds get too big or whatever it might be. We both kind of, are fascinated, like a lot of people are, by the Egyptian culture and what we know of it, which is frankly almost nothing. Well, we went. It wasn't too crowded. And we started going through, and there were all kinds of marvelous, beautiful things. Almost all of them dealing with death, because that's basically about the only thing that really remains from that society, from that civilization, are those things that were buried in tombs that were not discovered and plundered. And about halfway through the exhibit, if you've been there, and I really recommend that you go for a lot of reasons, about halfway through the exhibit, you walk into this chamber. It's about the size of the studio, maybe 20 feet by 10, 15 feet, something like that. And it is dominated with one item. One item, for all practical purposes, totally unlike anything else in the exhibit. One item, for all practical purposes, totally unlike anything I'd ever seen. From that era, from that period, from that civilization. It was a statue. Well, the first thing that you're struck by is the fact that it's like, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, I forget now how many years old, but it's at least 2,000 years old. That might be as much as 4,000 years old. It's immense. It's bigger than life. And the craftsmanship, the workmanship in this statue is mind-boggling. Just absolutely mind-boggling. And if you've been there, you know that you're given this little tape recorder with a headset that basically walks you through the exhibit and explains things about some of the more key items. And they start talking about this statue, and they talk about how when it was discovered, how when the archaeologists stumbled upon this statue, they were blown away. It's not a statue of a king. It's not a statue of a pharaoh or his queen. It's a statue of basically what amounts to a bureaucrat. They could tell from the hieroglyphics that he was, actually there's even a title for it, I don't remember what it is, but he was basically the guy that got the orders from the pharaoh and went and gave them out, and one of his big charges was to oversee the building of one of the major pyramids. And he commissioned this statue of himself, and one of the things that was so astonishing to the archaeologists about this statue, one of the things that told them what a very, very powerful man he was. Actually, there were two things. First of all, so I said the statue is somewhat larger than life. He's fat. And the common man was never fat. And even more astonishing than that is he is seated. Do you know why that's astonishing? Because the ruling class in Egypt would not permit the peons to sit in public for any reason. I could sit at home behind closed doors where they didn't have to see you sit, but if they were around, if there was any possibility at all that they could see you, you weren't allowed to sit. They stripped you of that much dignity. And here he was seated. Oh, he was an important man. So I'm standing there and I'm absolutely awestruck looking at this monument, this unbelievable work of art. And then I start thinking about what I had just heard. The guy's seated, which is extraordinary. Tells us he was a very important dude because common people weren't allowed to sit. Now, one of the reasons I have the gig and you don't is because my mind works a little bit differently. I just stood there staring at that statue. Virtually everybody passed me by. I was left, for all practical purposes, alone in that room, just staring at that statue. I'll tell you why in a second. It's 7:48. 7:52 the time. I got to tell you, my flounder is providing the feast this evening, courtesy of West Shore Pizza on West Shore in Euclid. You can give them a call at, 832-5331. Okay, so what's all this got to do with the Mexicans, huh? Hell of a lot. I mean a hell of a lot. How is it possible that such a fantastic nation as the nation of Egypt was, has disintegrated. How is it possible that it vanished? All the wealth, all the knowledge, it's all gone. It's all lost forever. Oh, sure, there's still a place called Egypt, and there are still Egyptians, direct descendants of the fat guy who was depicted in that statue. But the history and the story, the knowledge, everything, it's disappeared. How? Why? The fat guy can tell us. You see, the fat guy and his kind had nothing but contempt for all the rest of the people of Egypt. Nothing but contempt for them. Wouldn't even let them sit down. Took all the fruits of their labor, shared none of the riches of the nation, and denied them the most basic dignity. And like I said, the world it's absolutely littered with the remains of past societies. All of them vanished. Societies that we know virtually nothing about, except that they all shared one thing in common. As they matured, as they grew to greatness, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. And one day, without a trace, the society disintegrated and disappeared. The other thing that all these past societies all have in common is that the actual locations where they existed are still populated by the descendants of the people. I mean, people in Peru are the descendants from, the Incas? But for some reason, none of the people alive today seem to have any knowledge of what happened or why. It's almost as though they want it that way. It's as though they don't want anything to do with what once was. I wonder why. Again, I think the answer can be found from the fat guy. Those societies went too far. It got to the point where the people would take no more. So they did away with the fat guy and all of his friends. When they sat down, they haven't got up since. All that fat guy stood for, all that he had accomplished, was abandoned, thrown away. Even his memory, his story, just thrown away. Because the fat guy went too far, and he paid the price for it. All that he had done, all that he had valued, all of it, gone. Rejected so thoroughly that even his story wasn't passed on. It's happened time and time and time again on virtually every continent on the face of the earth. So as I sat there this morning listening to all the ugly Americans praising the beatings, one, of course, even calling for giving out medals, as I listened to the calls for shooting them on the spot, couldn't help think about something else that virtually all of the lost civilizations had in common. The elite thought nothing of beating the masses, beating them into submission, beating them into behaving the way they wanted them to behave, or even killing them for the most frivolous offense. Sometimes even just for the pure entertainment value of it. If you want to know the future, you study the past. And if that's too much trouble, then the day is going to come when future archaeologists will be sifting through our ruins as your descendants look on passively, not knowing, not caring about whatever happened to you. That's what it has to do with it. I mean, you can sit there and you can kid yourself all you want about them good-for-nothing, filthy, vile wetbacks coming here to live off your generous welfare. But that's all you're doing is you're kidding yourself. The inequities, the conditions in the nation that they come from, horrible. Absolutely horrible. And you are in part responsible for it. Because you don't mind in the least benefiting from their cheap labor. That's why they make so many things in Mexico now that they used to make here. You threw your own people out of work to exploit them. You're driving them here. And now you want to beat them for coming. And kid yourself about why they're here. Kid yourself about wanting to live in some barrio in a horrible section of Los Angeles where it's not safe, night or day, to be outside. But it's better than there. If you want to know the future, you study the past. That's what the statue has to do with it. Just remember, they were absolutely blown away. Statue of a guy sitting. In essence, you're commissioning statues of yourself in a seated position. When you forget the fact that they are human beings, desperate human beings, they're not here to live in your ghettos. They're here to escape the conditions, the horrible, unmerciful, unlivable, unimaginable conditions that you helped create and that you directly benefit from. Well, let's see here, Marge. We got this pair of shoes here made in Massachusetts for $29.95. I don't know. They're nice shoes, I guess. Oh, we got these shoes here made in Mexico for $24.95. Let's take the ones made in Mexico. Oh, but Herbert, they only pay the people there 85 cents an hour. I don't care. That's what it boils down to, boys and girls. Let me give you the telephone numbers. And then you can call up and talk about beating the crap out of Mexicans. Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. 990-WFLA. And Pinellas, 461-WFLA. 461-WFLA. The GTE MobileNet Star line. By the way, why don't you want to go beat them and shoot them? Don't even have the balls to do that. You want somebody else to do it for you. What a bunch of slobs you people are. The GTE MobileNet Star line, 970-STAR, and the Delaware Savings toll-free line, 1-800-969-WFLA. You talk about them as though they were dirt. I believe the phrase I heard several times today. As a matter of fact, it's a phrase I've heard in the past. Coming over here and dropping their puppies. Are they those little miracle gifts from God that you're talking about? They're puppies. Well, you don't surprise me. You don't surprise me in the least. As a matter of fact, it would surprise me if you had the courage. But I just thought I'd mention that. Just so there is no possibility that there's any misunderstanding here. I want you to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I know who you are and what you are. And now you know that I know. Worthless slime. Very strong words. But I'm sorry, boys and girls. Anybody who would talk so callously about human beings, desperate human beings, while at the same time wrapping themselves in the flag with a Bible under their arms, is worthless slime. Anyone who cannot justify such horrible, horrible views, such horrible opinions, such horrible wishes and desires outside of, well, my taxes are a little high, so I think we should kill him, is worthless slime, and I don't mind telling you that. And you know you're worthless slime, too, don't you? Now, we all do, don't we? Okay, good. Now let's start the show. Let's go to the telephones. Why not? Let's try Mark in St. Petersburg. Hi, Mark. You're on the air at WFLA.
Hey, how you doing, Bob?
Doing great.
Hey, I was noticing when I was watching the news last night, something really perturbed me. I was watching CNN, and they were saying something to the effect of, well, what are the reactions of different organizations? And one of the big things they were saying was, it was kind of strange. They were coming on and saying that some of the people in the NAACP were outraged by this, and I thought it was kind of funny. Why would they even be involved in some of this? Why would they even?
Because they're human beings, sir.
Well,
they're human beings. Any human being or any group of human beings should be disgusted and appalled by this.
But my question was,
you ought to be outraged that the white farmers of Wisconsin didn't come out against it.
But my question was, is is the press trying to create this into a racial incident?
It is a racial incident, sir.
How so?
Because they don't beat them as they're getting off the plane in New York, do they?
Well, it's a matter.
They don't beat them as they're getting off the plane in New York, do they?
Not in that particular instance, no.
No, not in any instance, sir. This country is filled with illegal aliens from England. It is filled with illegal aliens from Australia. It is filled with illegal aliens from Canada, from Germany. Filled with them. Somebody calling for them to be beat or shot, is there?
No, but I worry that it's more
just
than a
greasy
problem.
Mexicans, huh?
I worry that it's more than a problem with just Mexicans, as I've seen the problem with the Haitians and the Cubans. And I wonder if it's just a problem with more than race and actually aimed more at the kind of money that people have rather than just race. I wonder if there hadn't been a black officer that had been getting things thrown at him and being almost smashed into with his adrenaline rushing, and when he gets out of the truck and he sees literally dozens of people scattering in every which direction.
Excuse me a second. Did you say just a few minutes ago that the press was making this into a racial thing? And you're in the middle of telling me that had it been a black officer, you wonder if the NAACP would have said anything about it. That's what you're in the middle of telling me, isn't it?
What I'm wondering is if...
That's what you're in the middle of telling me, isn't it?
I suppose so, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the press that's making this into race, sir.
Do you suppose if it was a black officer that had been beating them, anyone would have been saying anything in regards to a
racial... I'm bored. 576 is not the number here. It's 990 WFLA. Comment does not deserve an answer. 461 WFLA in Pinellas, and in Hillsborough, 990 WFLA. Let's do David in Clearwater. Hi, David in Clearwater. You're on the air at WFLA. I'm doing great, dude.
That's good. You talk about the fall of Egypt internally. I would look at something maybe like the Roman Empire, which was much more powerful and took it over. As far as Mexico...
Also shared many of the same traits as virtually all the lost civilizations.
Well, eventually it did, and it fell from outside, not from inside.
No, it fell from inside, allowing them to come in from the outside.
Well, because they were not strong enough internally to protect themselves against invaders from outside, sure.
Yeah, because the vast majority of the population would have just as soon been taken over by hoarding Huns.
Well, actually, Huns were the ones that...
They'd be kept in slavery by a handful of the elite. They didn't get a crap.
That wasn't their choice, but that's what happened. The argument that Mexicans would be richer if they did not manufacture goods for sale in America, where do you come up with that? That's preposterous.
Yes, it's utterly preposterous. I never said anything of the kind.
Yes, you did. You
no,
said
I didn't.
We're responsible for the Mexicans' poverty because we purchase manufactured goods in the U.S. because we can get them cheaper with Mexican labor than we can with our own labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so but that doesn't make the Mexicans poorer. It makes them richer than they would be otherwise.
Sure, you try to justify that one. You know, it'll help you sleep tonight.
Well,
it's not true,
statement.
but you try to justify that.
It's a true statement, isn't it?
No, sir. I'm sorry. If you
so
went
you're saying if
no, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. If you went to the store and you found a shirt made in Mexico for $8.95 and a shirt made in the U.S. for $19.95, and you said to the guy who ran the store, "I'll be damned if I'm going to buy that Mexican shirt. Do you know how much they pay those people down there?" He'd stop carrying Mexican shirts, and when his supplier came and said, "Well, why don't you want to buy these Mexican shirts? They're only $8.95. And he said, "My customers said that they're not going to take advantage of exploited labor." Guess what? He'd go back and tell the factory in Mexico. So you just justify to yourself, sir, exploiting Mexican labor and then beat them when they come here trying to escape it.
I'm saying that the Mexicans, because they work and sell those shirts, that's their best job opportunity. Otherwise, they'd be sitting around on a 2-acre parcel of land with 20 other people.
Uh-huh.
So this raises their salary. It's still pitiful.
Sure, and you benefit from it, don't you? And you benefit from it.
I don't like it myself.
Of course not.
At the same time, if you're going to make an argument, you've got to make a responsible argument, which you're not doing.
Of course not. No, I'm not making a responsible argument at all, sir.
Go back to what my original argument was on this. You're saying that our purchasing manufactured goods from Mexicans...
No, sir. What I said is you exploit Mexican labor.
Richer, you're saying now...
No, I didn't say it makes them richer, sir. I just said you benefit from the exploited Mexican worker, and then you want to beat the crap out of him when he comes here to get away from it. I never said you could make them richer.
Poorer, richer, or are they same if we purchased manufactured goods made with Mexican labor?
I have no idea, sir. I don't know where they'd be able to sell their products and at what price they'd be able to sell them if they couldn't sell them here.
I don't know. But you had...
No, sir, it's a true answer. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I don't follow the psychic anymore.
Supply and demand for labor, because they have these jobs, it has increased the salary there from a very low level to a very low level plus a little.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Right.
That's what happened if you went back and studied the Industrial Revolution in England. If you studied it in America, the wages, as we look back, appear very low, but they were better than the wages that the people had out on the farm.
Oh, sir, please, you're going to throw your shoulder out of joint, patting yourself on the back.
If all you have to do is look at the wealth created by the Industrial Revolution, and we're just light ages away from what it was prior to it, and we don't have to go back that far in time. We just go back to the 1700s. And the same thing...
Do you favor beating them, by the way, when they sneak across the border?
Pardon me?
Do you favor beating them when they sneak across the border?
I favor them actually being caught and being incarcerated for a long time, because it's a very serious crime.
Ooh, very serious crime, trying to escape poverty.
Which do you consider a more serious crime? Entering the United States by a foreigner illegally, or doing something like violating the Endangered Species Act when you don't even know that you have violated it in
I don't know too many Mexicans who have been charged with violating the Endangered Species Act.
Tell me which you consider more serious.
I don't consider trying to escape a life of misery to be a crime. I do consider, for example, to be a crime to kill an eagle so that you can sell its feathers.
Maybe you don't consider it a crime. But we here in America consider...
We here in America, sir?
To be a crime.
We here in America?
Yes. Now, you don't. So you say that you do not believe in enforcing American laws.
I didn't say anything of the kind, sir.
You just said you don't consider entering America illegally to be a crime.
No, I don't. I consider it to be an incredible nuisance.
Okay, see, well, it is a crime. It is a crime. But you don't consider it one. So who are you to set yourself off from the laws of America and say, because you don't think it's a crime, it's not a crime?
Well, sir, I am not you.
No,
do you know what I am?
Obviously not you.
I'm a decent human being. Dust on that health rider over there. Going behind the headlines on the big stories of the day, AM Tampa Bay, 5 till 9 on 970 WFLA. When they're not on the health rider, they do that. Let's go back to the telephones. This time it is Jean in Clearwater. Hi, Jean. You're on the air at 970 WFLA.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Egypt's demise was caused by foreign invaders. The Hyksos, Hykos, the Syrians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Phoenicians who had better ships, took over the shipping business. Thousands of Ethiopians came in and squatted and devoured the wealth of Egypt. And thievery was rampant. The pharaohs were forced to flee Egypt. Their records were destroyed by fires. Their gods were replaced and different gods were brought in. So America, with its influx of voodooism and all the other third world people coming in, America is now on its decline.
An influx of voodooism, yeah.
They're bringing, same thing happened to Egypt. That's what brought down Egypt.
Voodooism brought down Egypt?
No, I said all the Hyksos, the Syrians, the Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans all brought in their own gods and destroyed the Egyptian gods. And destroyed the records. The pharaohs forced to flee.
So they had the wrong gods.
Coming in, like I say, intermarriage, marrying with the...
Intermarriage destroyed Egypt, yes.
True. And
Voodoo
this is what's happening in America.
With the wrong god.
Influx of third world nations coming in here. Look at America today. Come on, get with it. You should be a preacher on a pulpit, not sitting there trying to be a talk show host. Get
I'm
real.
not trying
get
to be a
knowledge.
talk show host, ma'am. I am
You
a
better
talk
get a little
show
more
host.
knowledge.
Damn good one, too. Damn good one. Knowledgeable enough to put you on the air, sweetheart. Let's go to George in Tampa. George, hi, you're on the air at
Roberto.
News Radio 970 WFLA.
Roberto, how are you?
Doing great.
Okay, Bob, told the screen. The first thing, in a sense, I'm kind of glad this is going to happen again, because all it's going to take is one American white kid that looks Mexican crossing that border the wrong way and gets shot, and all this nonsense is going to stop.
No, it's not going to stop.
Well, I think it will. One other thing, the example that you brought up with the shirts. Have you ever thought that a bottle of Corona costs more than a bottle of Budweiser? Are we crazy to believe the Mexicans are setting the prices, or the Americans setting the prices?
Well, first of all, the Mexican goods are not that much cheaper in this country than domestically made goods. The profit margin is greater.
I think they're competitively cheaper. But if you go to Kmart, whether it's made in China...
Yeah, they are cheaper, but not when you consider the disparity in the wages. The profit margin is far, far greater on the Mexican goods, which is another reason why people like to sell them.
And another thing, I think what we're doing here is violently agreeing with each other, but since we're on a history kick, industrialism did one thing for wages. It allowed industrialists to pay higher wages because they had to protect their more expensive machinery. So I enjoy your talk show. There's a lot of nonsense people out there talking a lot of hatred.
Well, there was also something else that prevailed back in that particular period, and that was this wild and crazy guy. I've told the story before, but it doesn't take long. It was this wild and crazy guy who loved money. Oh, my God, did he love money. He liked making money more than anything in the whole wide world. His name was Henry Ford.
Sure.
And Henry Ford came up with this really bizarre plan to make even more money. He was already a very wealthy man. And Henry thought, well, Jesus, if I pay my people more than anybody else, they'll work harder. And on top of that, they'll be able to afford my product.
Yeah.
So Henry also thought, well, if I increase the quality of my product and lower the prices, people will really want to buy my product. And so that's exactly what he did. He raised wages, lowered his prices, and increased his quality, and got richer still.
Absolutely. And there was a price to be paid
And
for
he
that.
forced other people to do the same.
But, well, there was yet another price in society, and specifically with Ford, I'm glad you brought that up, because Ford was also responsible for the great displacement of the American family. What Ford did, in essence, was shut up shops in various cities and promoted people to move away from their hometowns, away from their farms, and into the industrialized world. And what that led to was what we're calling today the breakdown of society, but what we called back then industrialism. Well, it has its price too. And if it means people are going to jump the border to try to get a better life because we tantalize them, we rub it in their face, look at what you can have, damn it, that's the price we're going to have to pay for it. Stop beating up people for it.
Okay, I will.
Okay, man.
Okay.
See you.
Hillsborough, 990 WFLA, Pinellas, 461. Make a note on the log to remind me to stop beating up people. 990 WFLA in Hillsborough, Pinellas, 461 WFLA, 461 WFLA. This time, it's off to Tampa. Hi, Tampa, you're on the air at News Radio 970 WFLA.
Oh, hey, Bob. How's everything?
It's going great.
Oh, good. Well, yeah.
Oh, my God, Richie, it's you.
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
Yes, I thought I'd give a call. I like the new gig.
How's your frog?
Oh, my frog is very, very fine and happy.
Good.
He is upset, though, about them beating up Mexicans, though, because Mexicans are good to us.
That's your frog for me.
Yes. Frog is very upset, and so am I, because I like Mexicans, and if they want to sneak across the border, I say let them. Who cares? It's not hurting us in the big run.
But it is. It is. It's a very, very serious problem, Richie. Have you ever been in Los Angeles?
No, not really.
Well, go there sometime if you want to see just what can happen to a city when large influxes of people who are ill-equipped and ill-prepared to live in this country, to live in this society, are thrown together. It's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture at all. But there are far more civilized ways of dealing with the problem than beating people or shooting them or even just, blowing off a lot of steam about beating and shooting people. Far more civilized ways of dealing with a very serious and very real problem.
Well, if we know that these people are our poor neighbors to the south, and we know the Canadians can take care of themselves up to the north, then why don't we make them a protectorate like what we have, what's the name of that place? Puerto Rico. I mean, when you take a look at Puerto Rico, they're doing well, from what I understand. They're still the Hispanic culture. They work, they play.
Well, it's also a much smaller place and a much easier place to be able to do something like that. Mexico is a very large nation with, I believe, if memory serves me, about 90 million people, where Puerto Rico has 3 million.
Well, it would show us that we could actually do something good for somebody close by. I mean, Caterpillar, I mean, when you take a look at all the Caterpillar industries and stuff, maybe we could ship down some of those extra Caterpillar machines. Maybe they can get into farming, irrigation, or something. I don't know what they want, but I'm sure they want the good life. And
well, yeah, exactly. They want what you want and what I want and what everybody wants.
They want a home. They want a place to live. They don't want to sleep on the streets. Even when they get over here, they're hoping that there's something over here, and I don't see any reason why we can't provide it.
They want a better life today and a brighter future tomorrow. That's all they want.
If we can spend $10 billion to research a nuclear sub, I'm sure we can put together some sort of program for the Mexicans down there. I mean, at least make it more attractive for them to stay at home.
Well, I don't know that there's anything that we can do for the country. We're talking about a very, very large nation with many, many, many people. But what we can do is stop exploiting them, driving them out of their land, and then trying to club them over the head when they try to escape. Stop kidding ourselves, for God's sake.
Well, I wonder then, why is the police taking this duty on? I thought it was supposed to be the duty of the Border Patrol or something. You know, they're supposed to keep people from wandering in here.
I believe there was some type of a potential motor vehicle infraction or something like that caused the initial contact.
Yeah, but
if I'm correct on that.
But here's the other thing. I mean, if all we have to do is take our driver's license with us and drive over to Mexico for a holiday, who's to say these people weren't coming over here for a holiday, too?
That's right. All 30 or 40 of them in the truck. Richie, I got to get out of here.
I guess I'm just too much of a liberal.
Okay.
Okay, see you, bud.
Say hello to your frog.
Drunk, too much beer. I saw you funk and I drinking that coffee head. And another day you know you're
8:35 the time. Welcome back. Just a little bit past the point of no return. Let's go back to the phones. St. Petersburg this time. John, you're on the air at WFLA. Hello, John. That's the one that sticks. Let's try that. Oh, what a pity. What a pity. John wanted to tell us that they got less than they deserved. What a tragedy. Another one of those people who lacks the courage of his convictions. John was going to pop off and talk about how enjoyable it is to watch other people beating Mexicans, and I was, of course, going to give him a great deal of grief and aggravation about that and suggest that perhaps he should go out and find some. Perhaps I was even going to make an offer that we could put out a call on the air for some Mexicans who might be listening to come over to the station, and John could come over and beat them. One line open. In Hillsborough, 990-WFLA, and Pinellas, 461-WFLA. John probably made the smartest decision of his life by hanging up at the last second. Let's go to Seminole. Hi, Seminole. You're on the air at WFLA.
What's up, Bob?
Hey, not much, dude.
I'm a little disappointed. I was watching the TV today at work for the first time, and I saw that. I'm not watching TV for the first time, but I saw the.
I know what you mean.
The incident for the first time, and I almost cried, but they were tears of joy because I've never been so happy in my life. I'm sick of illegal immigrants, sick of them coming into my country and stealing work from me.
Yeah.
Which
right, keeping you out of those lettuce fields, man.
No, I mean, you listen.
Shining career,
okay.
picking lettuce.
Let me explain something to you.
Yeah.
Okay. In the general area where I live, there are a few golf courses, and it just seems that a lot of these immigrants like to come to the golf courses and work, and I got friends that want jobs there, but they can't be hired because they
can't be hired. Why can't they be hired?
Because there's the positions are filled by immigrants who basically will work for less.
Well, let your friends offer them. So that's the American way, isn't it? Let your friends offer their services for less. Undercut the Mexicans. Isn't that the way capitalism
I don't want
works?
Mexicans in my country, Bob. Illegally, I should say. I don't mind. I'm for immigration. If anybody wants to come into my country, they can come into my country. And it is my country, after all.
Yeah, but you had tears of joy in your eyes watching these.
They got what they deserve, Bob.
Human beings.
They're roaches.
Roaches.
Roaches, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
They make me sick.
They do.
They make me absolutely...
People trying to escape lives of misery make you sick.
Oh, escape lives of misery so they can make other people's lives miserable?
That's what I said. Lives of misery make you sick.
They come over here and they basically become homeless or live off welfare or pop out babies left and right so they can get more money.
Are you referring to those miracles from God?
Those miracles from God?
Yeah, isn't that what babies are?
No.
No, they're not.
Why would they be miracles from God?
Well, a lot of people think they are.
I just think they're babies.
Oh, okay.
But, here they come over and they have babies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell me that you get frustrated, Bob. You get frustrated with the incident, don't you? With illegal immigration.
I think it's a very serious problem.
I do, too. And I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. I was happy when I saw that going on today. I can't explain it. It makes me sick watching these people come over.
Uh-huh.
It makes me absolutely sick.
Any other particular, crimes that you would like to see beatings for?
I can name off quite a few.
Oh, please. Like what?
Shoplifting.
Shoplifting, okay.
People should be beaten for shoplifting.
Uh-huh.
Stealing cable for free. That's another offense that really.
Stealing cable for free. That.
Hooking up the cable boxers. That they should be beaten for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing G-strings in public if you're over 400 pounds.
Uh-huh.
You should be beaten for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. You know of these Mexicans working at area golf courses?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't you and your friends, take some clubs out there and beat them?
Why don't we?
Yeah.
We have many times.
Oh. Okay. You just, like to go around and, catch them and beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. You're now. You see.
I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah,
why don't I do that?
Kidding. Yeah. Why don't you? If they deserve to be beat.
Okay. Let me rewind.
You're not going to leave the beatings to somebody else, are you?
No. Let me rewind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. They're humans. Okay, I agree with you there. And
that's encouraging. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll flat out admit it. I wouldn't do it myself, but not because.
Why not?
Not because I'm chicken or. Because I'm.
Why wouldn't you do it yourself?
Because maybe I'm human too, and I don't think I could beat another human down. But just watching it, not knowing that I'm not doing it, I was happy.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't do it myself, but just the fact that it was going on, and I know people are seeing this in Mexico, and I think they got what they deserve personally. And we weren't there. We don't know what happened. We don't know the incidents leading up to the point. We don't know the rising action. So.
Oh no! I beg your pardon. We do.
We do to a point. We all we know is there was a chase, and that was about it. That's all we really.
Well, no, it was a very, very serious, lengthy chase, very high speed. Apparently, debris was hurled in the direction of the police, literally endangering their lives. Yeah, we know all of that. That's all true. But we also know that the police are charged with apprehending lawbreakers, not judging and punishing lawbreakers.
I'm not saying what they did was illegally, legal, but it made me feel good. Just, I'm going, kick their ass. They deserve it. They're roaches, Bob. They're a nuisance to this country. Immigration's what made this country. I have no problems with immigrations, but do it by the book. Don't come over here and have kids just so your kids can grow up in
Why
America.
should they do it by the book if you don't want to do it by the book?
What do you mean?
Well, just what I said. You see, you want them to do it by the book, but you would just as soon administer justice on the spot. That's not by the book.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm right.
You're pretty smart, Bob.
Yes, I am.
I think you're a great entertainer.
Yes, I am. 576 would not be the number that would do you any good here. 990 WFLA. That's 3 times tonight. 990 WFLA. You say I'm getting more comfortable. in Hillsborough. Oh, thank you. Flounder just offered to beat me. Ooh. Would Jeffy call you and tell you the way I like it? Hillsborough, 990 WFLA. Pinellas, 461 WFLA. Let's do Tampa. Michael, hi, you're on the air at WFLA.
Hello, Bob. This is Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of talk show host you're going to turn out to be, but I tell you right now, I'd give you 2 thumbs up. I awakened this morning to listen to your colleagues, Jack Harris, Ted Webb, and Mark Larson, and I was just appalled at the display that they put on this morning. It was sickening. And had I had an opportunity to call into them this morning, I would have wished that Gabe Hobbs could have found 3 more guys just like you and gotten rid of a lot of them because.
Well, they're looking.
Because you correctly stated that people who hold those opinions are the slime of the earth. And it shows me exactly what kind of people you work with there right now. Maybe not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, guys that hang out in a pink room and then talk about beating people.
Absolutely. The last caller that you just had on there is a typical example of that mentality. And not that it's attributed to any current political persuasion, but it seems as though that sort of attitude is prevalent among the conservatives of America today. And it's just appalling that people can't see the inhumanity in an act like that. Regardless of what the Mexicans were doing, the high-speed chase and everything, their actions speak for themselves, but the actions of the police is just something that no one in their right mind can ever conscience. No one. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mark Larson loves to quote the Constitution, chapter and verse, but that's an inalienable right that's available to all human beings, every man. God created us all equal, and the pursuit of happiness comes in many flavors, and if it means crossing the border legally or illegally to try to find a better life, I see no fault in that.
Okay, dude.
You got thumbs up for me.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, make a note on the log there with thumbs up from the caller. One line open, Hillsborough, 990 WFLA, Pinellas, 461 WFLA. I'm not trying to drive it into your mind. I'm trying to drive it into mine. Let's do Maximo and Conrad. Hi there, Conrad. You're on the air at WFLA.
Good evening, Mad Dog.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Listen, first off.
Oh, here it is.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Anytime.
First off, let me tell you, I was so sad when you went off the air. November 27th, I went into rehab for alcohol abuse.
Uh-huh.
And I stopped and picked up a little headset because I thought, okay, I'm going to be in here, Jones, and I got to at least listen to my girls and Mad Dog. And the first 3 days, I could have my radio set I bought. And so when they finally gave it to me and you were
Let me
gone,
see if I got this right. I went off the air, you stopped drinking. Funny, I started drinking.
No, I stopped drinking.
Funny how, works the exact opposite.
Well, it didn't totally work that way for me, I'm sorry to say. But, it was like I had to be jonesing so bad, and when I finally found out you were off the air, it was like my shrink went crazy. She couldn't understand it. It was like, what are they doing to me, But that's here nor there, but I'm just glad you're back on the air. And as far as the conversation tonight, I haven't heard anybody say tonight. I tuned in late. The last 2 nights I've been sitting on my kitchen sink trying to call in, and the lines are so swamped. But just want to say every human being has due respect. And if these officers went on this chase for so long and they thought it was so dangerous, why didn't they have their guns drawn when they went on these people up to the car? Like you see in other times when the cars, hesitate for a mile, the police come with their guns drawn. Not their bats, not their clubs.
Good question, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
How many times has a young black male thought that, the police thought they had stolen a car and he's been pulled over and the police have guns on him, 2 officers with guns drawn. That way they can stop them if they have to. They don't have to sit there with their bats. I just don't understand it. I'd rather be stopped and have a gun drawn on me than just be a bat abuse.
Well, I prefer neither, but if you, force me to choose, hold a gun on me and don't beat me.
That's right. If you've got a gun, and even if you don't know if they do or don't, and from the film I've seen, I doubt if those people had $20 in their pocket, let alone a $40 gun. And like I say, I don't necessarily agree with how they come into the country, but like you said, they're not taking jobs away from you and me. They're helping this country, even in the long run. Even if they hurt us for a while until they get on their feet, But, you don't draw a bat on a person. They had guns. They could have handled it in a much better way.
Thank you, Conrad.
And one more word.
Yeah.
If you see Miss Sharon, tell her I love her.
Okay. Let's go to cell phone. Hi there, cell phone. You're on the air at WFLA.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
Doing great.
Okay, let me tell you a story here.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work in San Diego, and I was going across the border one time, came back, and if you ever seen the border in Tijuana...
Only pictures of it. I've never been down there.
Okay. Actually, it would be a nice place to visit. I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed San Diego and Tijuana, and actually going down to Rosarita, which was, as I say, it was just really just a very pretty ride. And every once in a while, I'd just go ahead and stop in downtown Tijuana and walk the streets, and I thought it was kind of neat myself. It wasn't some place that you'd like to write home about saying, "Gee, I've got a job here, Mom," But on the way back one night, the border crossing now, going from the United States into Mexico at that time was only like a little shack, like a 2-lane shack, basically. They were just waving you on, come on over.
Mm-hmm.
But going back into the United States was another story. It was a concrete, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was about 18 what really we would call toll gates.
Mm-hmm.
And I was waiting in a line with a couple of cars in front of me. It got up to me, and there was like a dark-colored car, maybe like a Chrysler Imperial or a Cadillac or some type of big car. And the person inside was the border border patrol there. Like the toll gate. I'm trying to think of what the name of what they call them now. The border guard was motioning to him to the trunk, and all you could see was his arm, the driver's arm, just saying no type of thing, a sign thing. Finally, he got to a point where he comes out of the toll gate, the border guard that is, comes out of his, opens the door, comes out, and obviously asked the driver to open to come out of his car and open the trunk. They go to the back of the trunk, and there's arms coming out of the trunk. What this was he was transporting illegal aliens. And I came to grips on stuff like that because after that, man, I'll tell you, it was a scary it's a scary sight when you see it for the very first time. I came to when I went past, they waved me through, and I thought about this for a long time afterwards, and I saw this from different angles. From that angle, I remember it, and because obviously those were humans, but obviously were not happy where they were. They wanted to leave. They wanted to go back. They wanted to get to someplace else where they thought that they could make a better life. And it took me a while to come to grips with it. But I decided that really what they were doing was definitely wrong. I don't care how you want to look at illegal immigration like that, and I'm sorry for them, but there are certain steps that we all have to do in life, and to take your own approach to any type of a situation like that, I think is wrong. Now, I'm not opposed to immigration, but I am opposed to illegal immigration.
I don't know anybody that's in favor of illegal immigration.
I'm sorry?
I don't know anybody that's in favor of illegal immigration.
Well, evidently there's a lot of people that feel that, hey, any way that you can go ahead and go from one place to another, that's fine.
Well, I haven't heard any of them today.
I'm sorry?
I haven't heard anybody say that today.
Well, I've heard them from time to time. Your last call,
there are kooks that will say anything.
And I kind of took it that way.
There are kooks that will say anything, but there is no significant group of people in this nation who are in favor of, wide open borders, come and go as you damned well please. There's no significant group of people who feel that way.
Well, I kind of question how much airplay then those people are getting that on the individual levels then.
Okay, dude.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for the story.
Thanks, thanks, Bob.
Be good.
Okay, you too.
It's 8:51. minutes of that. But instead, we'll go to Tampa and talk with Larry. Hi, Larry. You're on the air at 970 WFLA. Hello, Larry. It's stuck. Drat. Why is it always the ones that want to... There we go.
Yeah, how you doing?
Fine.
Yeah, those Mexicans got what they deserved. And now we got to do it to the Jews and the blacks and the Mexicans, the niggers, and all those guys. And Pat Buchanan, go, Pat, go. Go, Pat, go.
Oh, what a tragedy. What a terrible, terrible tragedy. See, Larry... Was that his name, Larry? It's already off the screen. I think it was Larry. So Larry is a young man who suffers a lack of self-respect for himself. He is an individual who can only apparently boost himself up by attempting to drag other people down. Now, I know that to be a fact, not because I'm a trained psychologist or psychiatrist or anything like that, not because I've even attended a lecture on such things. I haven't. I know that because I'm a human being. That's how I know that. And I know that there have been times, shameful times in my life when I, too, have said disparaging things about people that frequently I didn't even know. And it always comes at a low point in your life. It always comes when you're not feeling too good about yourself. And the only hope that you have of boosting yourself up is dragging someone else down. And then you know, kind of sitting home alone at night, no place to go, nothing to do, nobody really to talk to. And you turn on the radio and you hear the man on the radio and he's talking to people. And so you pick up the phone and you dial it. And you sit there on hold, about 20, 25 minutes. And finally he says it's your turn. And you get on the air and you start talking in a phony voice, saying really, smart-ass things that you think will impress whatever friends you might have. Why you would want friends who would be impressed by things like that are beyond me, but I suppose if you're, kind of a lonely misfit, you take what you can get. So please, ladies and gentlemen, don't be too hard on him. He's just a poor, sad, pathetic man alone at night, trying to be a big shot, trying to please his other gooky friends who find amusement in using words like nigger and Jews. Please, don't be too hard on him. Okay? Okay. Well, let me give you the telephone numbers in Hillsborough, 990-WFLA. In Pinellas, 461-WFLA. The GTE MobileNet Star line, 970-STAR. And the Delaware Savings toll-free line, 1-800-969-WFLA. Feast provided tonight by West Shore Pizza. The order ably called in by my flounder, West Shore Pizza on West Shore and Euclid. Good stuff, too. Don't go far. There's still another hour yet to go.